The Republican Party's civil war is only escalating week by week, and it keeps getting more and more and more entertaining to watch. If you haven't subscribed to me, or this is maybe the first video of mine that you're coming across, this is my third video where I've talked about how fractions within the Republican Party are slowly breaking it before we've even gotten to Trump's presidency, and how a civil war is brewing. First video explained what the factions were. Second, talking about how it basically blew up the budget and was a big win for Elon Musk, but not for incoming President Trump. And now this one is about how Elon Musk seems to be burning bridges with the core base of the MAGA movement. Quick refresher, I believe that there are two major movements within the GOP that exist, but you can call them like different factions of MAGA, because they agree with like the basics, like culture war stuff along those lines. But one half of the movement is a libertarian faction. It wants business interests put first, it wants a free economy to basically let big corporations do what they want unbound, and they detest the idea of the American state being as big and just as massive as it is. They don't like the idea of the American government being a large entity. But there's another side. This is like the Trump side, the JD Vance side. These are the people that accept the size of the government, this like protectionist side where they want tariffs, they want new taxes. They see the size of the government and they want to use that government to do things, to achieve their massive goals, be it building a wall or somehow abolishing the existence of like overseas companies that take jobs away from the United States. So what has happened in the last few days is that Elon Musk has gone off the deep end trying to defend immigrant workers against the most extreme parts of the MAGA movement, specifically relating to one visa program. That is the H-1B visa program, which Musk himself used to immigrate to the United States. It's basically a program that allows incredibly skilled workers for very specific industries to come to America, basically to fill any gaps that might exist in America's labor market. This instance in particular is specifically relating to how the United States tech industry, Silicon Valley, really needs to import skilled laborers simply because in America, there aren't enough people to actually fill those roles, that actually have the skills to be high-level engineers and actually do the work that Silicon Valley needs. I believe he even floated the idea of doubling the number of people that could get into the country through a H-1B visa. That would mean upwards of 100,000 people going to the United States specifically to work in high-level tech jobs to meet the shortfalls of the American job market. And very few people in the MAGA movement responded to that issue well. Musk was pretty much immediately called out by the likes of Steve Bannon and Laura Loomer, who was saying that what he was doing was basically acting against the platform that Trump was elected on, this idea of stopping immigration and actually giving jobs to Americans as opposed to bringing in people to do the jobs at the cost of American workers. And Musk responded pretty directly, first of all, by demonetizing those people on X. Laura Loomer, specifically a campaign aide of Trump's that was very visible on the campaign trail during the final weeks, she talked about how her and many of her colleagues had all their monetization taken away from them on X, formerly Twitter, and that it was actually impacting how they make revenue. So that's a pretty direct strike by Musk against this alternative faction within MAGA. And when Musk was called out for this by members of the conservative movement and it started ramping up the criticism of him, he told members of the more hard-right faction of MAGA to go fuck their own faces. A very professional response from a man who is meant to be overseeing all government efficiency. But of course, Elon is not alone in this. Vivek Ramaswamy, his partner, who's meant to co-run the Department of Government Efficiency with him, decided to chime in and published a very long letter regarding this issue, which was one of probably the most fucking stupid, patronizing messages I think he could have possibly put out, specifically when it comes to talking to MAGA. He did the worst thing possible, and that was that he talked down to them in a way that was very obvious and very insulting. Vivek Ramaswamy basically made the argument that American culture itself is in a way inferior to cultures from other places, particularly like India or anywhere where high-level engineer immigrants might come from, because American culture overvalues like jocks over nerds and like prom queens over kids in chemistry class. It was a very bizarre rant, but his basic pitch was that America does not have the culture to produce enough high-level engineers. And to say that went down like a lead balloon would probably be understating it. Of the conservative places that I've looked at online, I've only seen the response to Vivek's statement. Basically, it being laughed off and it being like almost comically tone deaf and out of touch. I think even Matt Gaetz chimed in, the disgraced congressman allegedly who committed statutory rape, went on X to say that these two are there to cut the government. We did not hire them to come up with an immigration policy. Now, Trump, for his part, did actually make a statement saying that he does more agree with the line of like Vivek and Elon, and he said that a lot of H-1B visa workers actually work in his companies, and that he likes the program and that it's a good program. But I think that points to like a central issue that I've briefly touched on before, and that is the idea that MAGA is starting to outpace Trump himself. The movement is becoming bigger than him, and it's slowly going to start breaking away from him as issues like this come up. And it's the core problem here that really shows the difference in ideology between the groups. The issue is that there are not enough skilled engineers in America. The country simply hasn't produced enough of them for whatever reason. And the MAGA core perspective on that is start educating Americans more and get Americans to the level where they are ready to get those jobs. Whatever you have to do, help Americans to get educated and get those jobs. Even if it takes 4 years, 5 years, hell, even 10 years, it's worth it. And that core does not care if Silicon Valley's bottom line is hurt over that period. But the libertarian faction that it seems that Trump is leaning towards on this issue, where Vivek and Elon are their own little kings, is that they see the solution as, oh, there are thousands upon thousands of engineers overseas that we could bring in to fill these roles immediately for the sake of efficiency. And that is an unresolvable divide in this movement. This civil war has been brewing for a while, and it seems that every time it's come up and mentioned, it's only getting worse. And I think Trump should start to worry about the idea of the MAGA movement becoming independent from him. MAGA becoming its own ideology, not just whatever Trump says that it is. Because if he loses the reins on the MAGA movement and he just starts doing its own thing, which it's already shown signs of starting to do, Trump does not have enough allies as it is. If he loses his core base and they start acting against him, well then this 4 years for soon-to-be President Trump is going to be absolute hell.